So I want to dive right in today. There's so much to talk with you about. Congratulations on the new book. It's Part of My World, What I Learned from the Little Mermaid about love, faith, and finding my voice. But I have to start by asking you, how does one change? How are you affected by being part of such an amazing and monumental movie like The Little Mermaid?
I know. That's the big question, right? Yeah, it's been life changing over the last 35 plus years now, being part of this film and creating this character and being with the Disney company. It's been an unbelievable journey. It really has. And was supposed to be a one and done job. And here we are still talking about it, still singing the song every week. And I am just so incredibly blessed and grateful.
Could you have ever expected that The Little Mermaid would have blown up into the phenomenon that it became?
No, no, never in a million years. Yeah, at the time, the Disney studios, animation studios, were in kind of a critical time. They were actually moved off the lot. They were on Flower Street in Burbank in trailers at that point. And so I had no idea what was riding on the success or the demise of this particular film. We were not aware of the pressure and everything that was put upon this film and what the expectations were. So when it was so well received and just took a different turn of events. You were never supposed to know who we were as the voices. They were never supposed to be revealed. And all of a sudden, everything changed when that movie opened up in November of 1989. So
It's
it's been
crazy.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, transformed your life, changed your life in so many ways. And I'm really curious about your background because you have a really interesting background. You've worked very hard in entertainment and done a lot of different things. But when did you first realize, okay, this entertainment industry is something that I'm destined for. This is something I'm going to do as a job. What was that journey?
I think I was probably 8 or 9 when I told my mom that I'd really like to pursue musical theater, to sing, dance, and act without ever having seen a Broadway show. But
Wow.
I just had something inside of me that was like, I want to give this a try and see what happens. I didn't know if I was any good. And I went to college on a scholarship in Decatur, Illinois, Millikan University. I went there and I thought, well, here we go. Let's just see what happens. If they have given me a scholarship, they must see some kind of potential. But I had a very realistic outlook on the industry, wondering, I don't know if I can make a living. I did have a backup plan. I wanted to be a lawyer. And I thought, well, this is the chance. I'm 18. I better just throw it out there and give it a go. So I started working professionally that summer and haven't stopped ever since. So it's just truly been an incredible faith walk. And obviously, God knew that he had my career lined up 10,000 steps ahead of me. And it's just been a real neat faith walk the whole way.
Yeah, I love what you said there too, because and I love your backup too, law. That's so amazing. You had your backup plan, but it is so interesting how God sort of puts things in our hearts and our minds before we even realize, right? We get sort of set on a course, and of course we have to make sure that we're following him and that we're on the right course, but those feelings, that talent that you realized early on that he was placing that in you and setting you on that journey, what has
Right.
this been like for you? You get a chance to sort of look back now on over 30 years of The Little Mermaid, but obviously so many other projects. When you look at what God has done in your life, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
That he's in control and I'm not. And that's the key. He's not only God of my life, but he's director, he's casting director, he's producer, he's everything. And I didn't need to worry about having the reins of control because I was definitely a perfectionist and a control freak and feeling like this whole industry is I'm wearing it on my shoulders like a yoke, like a burden. And once I kind of got to the place of, I just need to walk in the room, I just need to do my best and throw it out there and let it go. Because I'll be part of the things I'm supposed to be part of, and then I'm not going to be part of the things I'm not supposed to be part of. So if you look at the whole big picture, which we don't have the vision of that, we only get to see the next step. I needed to do the next right step. And that's it. That's all that I'm responsible for at that point.
Yeah. And that's such a healthy way of looking at it too, because there are things we're not intended to do. And we run into trouble when we do those things, right? Or we kind of run towards them. And that is sort of an amazing place to be though, to know, hey, He's going to bring me where I should be. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And that's incredible. And it served you very well, throughout your career. What were the roots of your faith? Did you grow up as a believer? Sort of how did that unfold for
Good.
you?
Yeah, I had a really strong faith background, more probably around a religious education, through the Catholic Church, probably a lot more in the ritual department, with some rules and regulations. But deep down inside, when I was in third and fourth grade, I knew that I could talk to God directly. And I didn't necessarily need the priest or the nun to kind of be my conduit. Um, and so that started birthing at an earlier age. And when I met my husband when I was 18, he had told me, he's like, you can have that personal relationship. And and I knew that I had that. So it was just the realization of it isn't a religion. It really is this ongoing 24/7 relationship that I can call out and talk to any time of the day or night. And
Yeah.
so that was just a beautiful element to add on top.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's a relationship. And I think a lot of people, they haven't experienced that or they might not know that. And so hearing you say that is powerful. And it's a topic you write about in the book. Again, the book is part of my world. And I'm really curious because obviously people have known you now for years and you're a part of everybody's childhood. It's this really interesting thing when you're in a role like what you did with Ariel. Everybody sort of has this connection, and that's got to be an interesting place to be. But what made you want to sort of come out in this way and write a book on your experiences?
Well, I didn't. And I say that in the first line of the author's note. I never wanted to write a book in a million years, and I mean never. But when Tyndale reached out to me, I said no, I think 3 times in a row. And then, kind of like switching the gears, I'm like, I don't want an autobiography. I don't want a memoir. I just, that's not me. I don't have that kind of wisdom, nor do I want to present myself that way. But sharing behind the scenes stories that shine a light on others and more of like a thank you letter to people and a love letter to Disney, and to share stories that if I didn't share them, they would be lost forever. Um, I think that's what made me jump in, going, okay, I think I can handle this type of a writing project.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very unique. Obviously talking about the subjects that you are talking about here, and faith is obviously a part of that. Did you sort of know right from the beginning that stories of faith and themes of faith were going to be a part of this?
It was never meant to be a Christian published book. I know Tyndale is a Christian publishing company, and so that's where we had to kind of go, you know what, I'm really not in the box of that, nor do I want this to be a Christian book and advertised that way, because I found that to be kind of limiting. And I wanted it to be inclusive. I wanted people from Disney and from Broadway and families and from homeschooling families. I wanted everyone to feel included. I didn't want anyone's feelings to be hurt. I didn't want someone to pick up the book and feel less than. Oh, this isn't for me. I'm not a person of faith. I won't pick up this book. That's exactly what I didn't want. So I think we had to think outside of the box. So if there are elements of faith, if they come out of from who I am as a person, they're not intentional. They come out within stories. They weave in and out. Sometimes there's scripture, sometimes there's not. I tried to make it just as real and authentic and as vulnerable as I could, but to make it more organic and not like, now we're going to share a story about God.
Right.
It's kind of like people know that I'm a person of faith, so it's just going to come out in my storytelling.
Yeah, and that's incredible. And I think that's the best way. We talk a lot about reaching people. That's the best way for people to just see that in you because it's who you are. And,
Mhm.
for you, at the end of the day, when people knowing who you are, knowing the projects you've done, when they walk away from this book, what are you hoping they're thinking and feeling?
I think one of 3 things will make this all worthwhile to me, because it was a very difficult project to do. It was all audio and then it's just transcribed. So it's just me talking to you. But it was hard. It was hard to go back. It was hard to remember things from, 35, 40, 45 years ago. That was really hard. Um, and I think it will all be worth it if I know that one reader would pick up the book and read one little story, because it's not chronological. It's kind of like a little devotional where you could pick up one little story for the day and then put it down for 3 weeks, maybe. Um, and if they would feel one of three things: number one, they would feel encouraged by something that they read. Number two, that they won't make the same mistakes that I did. That maybe they'll see an alternate route from A to B, um, and maybe bypass some of the drama and the trauma that I kind of walked myself into. And number three, that maybe they'd read a story and it would make them think about something they've never thought about before. Whether it's thinking about, is there a higher power? What does that look like? Am I all that there is? Whatever, those three things. If one reader feels one of those three things after one story, then to me it's worth it.
Yeah, my last question for you, and I think that's all really powerful what you just, detailed. As you're sort of talking to people, and maybe there's people listening to this or watching this right now, and they want to get into entertainment, they want to move into Hollywood. Maybe they're people of faith, maybe they're struggling, trying to figure out, can they do it? Can they sort of find the right balance, taking the projects that they should take? That's a struggle for some people. What would you say to those people who are maybe struggling with trying to find that balance between who they are and their values and what they might have preconceived notions on in the industry?
Well, I think the first thing when I talk to young people and people that are thinking of, pursuing the industry, is I ask them why. What's your why? Because if it's fame, it's fortune, it's money, it's notoriety, it's celebrity, it's whatever, those would be the wrong reasons for going into this crazy industry. You have to have a natural skill set. You have to have a natural giftedness in this area, whatever it might be, in front or behind the camera, on stage or behind the stage. So I would ask them that why. And then, as a person of faith, if God has given you the gifts to share, then He's going to provide the path. It's a matter of being patient. And it's 100 to 1. It's 100 no's to 1 yes. A lot of people can't live with that percentage of rejection. That did not concern me as much as not pursuing what I felt like God had called me to do. So the drive to share the gift was stronger than the concern or fear of being rejected. Because once you learn, like when you walk in a room or present yourself and you do your best work for the day, then you let it go and you move on. You can't really rehash and rethink, and you can't control the people on the other side of the table. So you can only be in charge of what you are presenting. Um, so I think for young people, if they feel like they have the gift, they feel like they've got the talent, they've got the drive, and they're willing to walk into a field of mostly rejection, then they got to go for it. Because you definitely don't want to have any regrets. You definitely don't want to regret as you're older. Got to give it a go.
Got to give it a go. Well, listen, I so appreciate your time. The book is Part of My World: What I've Learned from the Little Mermaid About Love, Faith, and Finding My Voice. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and all the best to you, and appreciate your support of this little book and for inviting me as your guest.